Welcome to the Beau Show, the home of faith, family, and freedom. Thanks for watching. With a new year comes a new Congress, new leadership, and new revelations. Much to the chagrin of Democrats, they no longer have control over the House of Representatives, which means that the new Speaker, Kevin McCarthy, can set a new set of rules. And he has. And it seems that business is off to a very fast start. Today I want to talk about two specific Democrats in the House, Representative Adam Schiff of California and Representative Eric Swalwell, also of California, congressmen who are drawing fire for unethical behavior. Concurrently with the changes of a flip in the House are revelations about the level of collusion between various federal entities, the Democrat Party, and Twitter. To that end, Twitter complied with many of the requests from these entities. So first, let's analyze Adam Schiff. Starting in 2019, Schiff was chairman of the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, and he had a fundamental role in pursuing the investigation of President Trump and alleged collusion with Russia to assist him in winning the 2016 presidency. This allegation was based on a dossier provided by ex-British spy Christopher Steele. That dossier was paid for by the Democratic National Committee and Hillary Clinton's campaign. But what is so important is that that dossier, in part, triggered the obtaining of a FISA warrant that permitted the government to spy on the Trump campaign. It was a total abuse of power. But this dossier, which turned out to be entirely fake, was used to endlessly investigate Trump and dog his presidency, leaving this cloud of doubt that maybe his victory was compromised due to foreign interference. Schiff knew all along, however, that the dossier was fake and paid for. The FISA warrant was illegal, and that Trump did not collude with Russia at all. It was all part of a political witch hunt. In fact, in 2016, the FBI offered Christopher Steele $1 million to prove the allegations he had made in that dossier. FBI supervisory analyst Brian Auten testified that Steele never got the money because he could not prove the allegations. The entire reason that the Mueller investigation started was all based upon gossip and hearsay, not solid facts or evidence. Mueller never even found anything concrete or damning. But the Steele dossier provided the wishful thinking from Democrats that Trump had indeed been helped by the Russians. But such information was never found. This was the so-called insurance policy that FBI Special Agent Peter Strzok spoke about in messages to his lover. But Adam Schiff decided to drag this investigation out in order to politically wound Trump. He then led the impeachment trial of President Trump in 2019 over claims that Trump had withheld U.S. aid to Ukraine in exchange for damning information against Joe Biden. Now, while that trial proved fruitless in the Senate, he led a second impeachment trial over the January 6th events at the Capitol. Once again, he based this impeachment on things the president did not say. It was a hunt to put a political stain on Trump so that he would be barred or impaired from running for president ever again. Much to his chagrin, Trump is running again in 2024 as of this moment, proving all of Schiff's efforts to be impotent while wasting taxpayer money. And with that spirit, let's pivot to some of the latest Twitter files revelations. Journalist Matt Taibbi shows that a staffer of Adam Schiff made a request of Twitter exec Yoel Roth quite often, asking that tweets be taken down. This important use of taxpayer resources involved an ask about a Peter Douche parody photo of Joe Biden. The DNC made the same request. Now, to Twitter's credit, Roth responded that it was obvious that this was a doctored photo and that its intent was humor. Schiff's staff did not give up, however. They requested suppression of other tweets about staffer Sean Misko, who was linked to Ukraine whistleblower Eric Ciaramella and a Burisma-linked think tank. Twitter did not find such suppression to be conceivable. However, Twitter did de-amplify a number of accounts that were tweeting similar content, meaning Twitter was already suppressing them. In November of 2020, Schiff's staff contacted Twitter about a number of issues, including requests to remove all content about staffer Sean Misko, which Twitter replied, we don't do that. They also requested the suspension of a journalist, Paul Sperry, because of his reporting on Schiff. Sperry responded, quote, "Around the same time Adam Schiff's office was lobbying Twitter to have me banned, Schiff's chief of staff, Patrick Boland, was making threats to my employer, RealClearInvestigations.com, about my stories exposing Schiff's impeachment whistleblower and his ties to Schiff's staffer. Therefore, here is Schiff, a sitting member of Congress and chair of the Intel Committee, requesting that Twitter ban a journalist because he was exposing Schiff's phony Russia hoax narrative. That is such a violation of his oath of office, and also trying to restrict the freedom of the press, one of the fundamental rights our Constitution provides, as well as suppression of free speech, a violation of the First Amendment. Now, if you look at the Tufts Distinguished Speaker series, it described Schiff as, quote, focused on growing the economy, bolstering national security, strengthening communities, helping small businesses, protecting freedom of the press here and abroad. This description could not be more diametrically opposed to what Schiff was actually doing in the Intel Committee and shutting down freedom of the press and freedom of speech, the very things that he swears an oath of office to protect. The press, under its designed function, is to inform the electorate. If a journalist investigates a member of Congress for transparency regarding a staffer or an entity whose role is the basis of an impeachment proceeding of a president, the public has a right to know that. Schiff, using taxpayer funds, lobbied a communication provider to censor the speech of that journalist, thereby suppressing information that might sink his impeachment proceeding. Schiff was the right-hand man of former Speaker Nancy Pelosi. And what is becoming obvious is that this was nothing more than a partisan function, not a public or congressional one. Even in the January 6th committee, Democrats wanted to pick the Republicans on that committee. So they selectively picked two Republicans who hated Donald Trump, the subject of that inquiry. Twitter complied in the sense that they de-amplified a number of accounts that they already deemed suspicious, but they did not comply with the other direct requests by Schiff. Even those committed leftists could not legitimize such a direct suppression of speech and press. Now, Kevin McCarthy vowed that if the GOP ever took back the House, that he would remove Schiff from his committee assignment. And he seems to be making good on that promise. But listen to how MSNBC's Chris Hayes covers for Schiff's lying.
Chairman, you're accused of lying time and time again to the American people, which is apparently disqualifying for being on a committee, which I'm not sure about that. I've covered a lot of politicians, and I don't think that dings you, but I would like to get your response.
So lying is not disqualifying for being removed from a committee. Well, sure it is, Chris, especially if the foundation for an impeachment trial is unsound, and you know that dossiers are fake. Here's what McCarthy said.
Adam Schiff openly lied to the American public. He told you he had proof. He told you he didn't know the whistleblower. He put America for 4 years through an impeachment that he knew was a lie. At the same time we had Ukraine, at the same time we had Afghanistan collapse. Was that the role of the Intel Committee? No. So what I am doing with the Intel Committee, bringing it back to the jurisdiction it's supposed to do, forward-looking to keep this country safe. Keep the politics out of it.
The reason he's called Shifty Schiff is that as a prosecutor, he has a certain sly, cunning way about him. Ironically, as a California prosecutor, he led a trial against an FBI agent for, if you can believe it, spying. Now, how ironic is that? That the very dossier he helped promote comes from a lying British spy, whom the FBI itself offered to pay for info, but came up empty-handed when Steele could not provide it. In another irony, Schiff said, quote, "What I'm most concerned about, if the Republicans should ever get near the gavel, is that they will overturn the next election if Trump loses again. They tried to overturn the last one." It's clear that Schiff tried to overturn Trump's victory in 2016 using his gavel with fake dossiers. Schiff has a way of using his elevated, careful speech from Harvard Law to make you believe he is scholarly and methodical. But that smooth delivery belies what he is actually doing. I'm sure that he never thought that his strong-arming of Twitter to suppress journalists and speech would ever see the light of day. But it makes all of his careful elocution seem quite actorish. After all, do you know what district of California Schiff represents? Hollywood. Now it should make sense to you. Any member of Congress that has been that disingenuous and that deliberately incorrect has no place on our Intelligence Committee. Now let's shift from Shifty Schiff to another member that McCarthy will likely be removing from that Intel Committee, Eric Swalwell. Here's how new Speaker Kevin McCarthy responded to a press inquiry about Swalwell.
Let me phrase something very direct to you. If you got the briefing I got from the FBI, you wouldn't have Swalwell on any committee. And you're going to tell me other Democrats couldn't fill that slot? He cannot get a security clearance in the private sector. So would you like to give him a government clearance? You asked me questions about Santos. You asked the questions about Swalwell. Not only was he getting a clearance, he was inside an Intel committee. He had more information than the majority of all the members. Did you ever raise that issue? No, but you should have. You're going to tell me there's 200 other Democrats that couldn't fill that slot, but they kept him on it? The only way that they even knew it came forward is when they went to nominate him to the Intel Committee. And then the FBI came and told the leadership then, he's got a problem. And they kept him on. That jeopardized all of us.
And here's how Swalwell responded.
Their plan is to take me, Adam Schiff, and Ilhan Omar off the committees and put George Santos, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Paul Gosar back on committees. I think you see that that is a uneven, vengeful approach.
Now, Swalwell is lying. McCarthy has not said he is replacing Schiff and Swalwell with Greene, Santos, and Gosar. Note that Swalwell is deflecting about his security clearance status, trying to call attention to McCarthy's political move.